everyone, welcome to today's lecture. So in today's lecture, we will be looking at idea generation and selection. So we know that idea is the key element to solving the problem that we have at hand. And the idea generation is an integral process wherein we will conduct several methods like we have seen earlier also divergent method. There are several ways in which we can achieve the stage where we have ideas, and then we also have to go ahead with the selection process. So since ideas are the starting point from where they will move through a certain cycle and influence a change that is required, it may be on the level of the planet or of the level of the humans need. So this becomes really important to take a look into. So this diagram is, now I guess we all are familiar with. So this is the design thinking stages, and we can see that idea generation falls at stage 3 of this design thinking process. So this is where the participants are approaching the whole issue, the whole problem with an open mind, and through techniques like brainstorming and others that we have seen earlier. So they will be coming up with many solutions or ideas, we can say, at this particular stage, which will be addressing the problem statement that we have designed earlier by looking at the challenges people are facing by empathizing with them. So idea generation can be described as the process of creating, developing and communicating abstract, concrete or visual ideas. So the idea can be something that we have just come up with, it's very abstract, so now we have to work further on it, or it may be a very solid idea that we get, and it can also be an idea which is very visual, difficult to put into words, for example. And the idea can also strike as, maybe it can be a light bulb moment, like we have seen in all these cartoons that the bulb lights up, not the tube light, because the tube light takes time to light up, but a bulb which instantly lights up. So we can think of the idea to also come up like a flash of lightning, which can also hit the designer. And of course this idea, which is the key element, because this is the one which is going to be further developed into a solution, of course after going through certain other steps after refining it, but that is going to actually solve the problem at the ground level. So again, it becomes imperative to stress on the fact that the idea is the key to the finding the solution or solving the problem that we are looking at. So we can see here a definition of ideation by the Nielsen-Norman group, which says that the process of generating a broad set of ideas on a given topic with no attempt to judge or evaluate them. So you may recall that in the previous lectures also we have discussed that how at this particular stage we have to keep our judgment aside, and we don't want to influence our thinking process, and we don't want it to spoil or hinder our future design steps. So it is important that we are not judging or evaluating them at this stage, and we are letting them come in an organic manner. So often when we are ideating, so there will be an overlap between the define and ideation phases. So one reason is that they are next to each other. If we recall these steps, we will see that design and ideate are next to each other. So there may be some overlap, but we will also discuss with an example that how it may really take shape. So now two techniques like body storm and how might we questions. So body storm is, so there are certain differences also in these two, but there are ways in which they may overlap as well. So body storm is an exercise where the whole body is involved, wherein the team will enact out the scenario, and that will help them understand the challenges that the user will probably face in the real world scenario. So it helps connect with the user needs and their challenges better. On the other hand, the how might we questions are more linguistic. So they are put into words, and we saw in the previous lecture that how might we question there are three ways in which we can create it. One, it can be too narrow, it can be too broad. So it has to be just right in order to address the problem at hand, give us some freedom to really explore the creativity and also not go really overboard so that the problem goes out of control. So now this how might we question, since they are in a sentence form. So when we are body storming, this exercise may also open our eyes to some other problems that may be there, or some other things that we may want to include in our how might we statement. So both of these then can influence each other when we are carrying out this exercise. So that is why we may expect to see certain overlap between the define and the ideation phase. Now let us see some techniques in ideation. So during the ideation stage, what is really important is for the team to have the creative juices flowing. So if there is no creativity, then we cannot expect them to come up with a good ideation. We cannot expect them to come with good ideas for the problem. And ultimately what will happen is that we will have to choose from the poor choices which are there, and the final outcome of course is going to be poor. So now what is it that may hinder this creative process? So maybe some distraction, maybe noise, maybe people moving around, visual distraction, auditory distraction. So all of these things may influence negatively the whole creative process. So to ensure that it does not happen, there has to be a specific space where this ideation process takes place. So here is an example from Virginia Tech Department of Industrial Design. So we can see here that there is this cylindrical space, that white space that we see there, and it is specifically developed for people to brainstorm and sketch in isolation. So we can see that outside this cylindrical structure, there's a lot of activity that is happening, lot of tables we can see with many items scattered around. So this is also a distraction, a visual distraction. Maybe we are sitting to sketch and somebody is asking us a question that what time is the bus arriving. So it will just distract us from the problem at hand, and of course the idea, we lose the thread of what we were thinking. So for that reason, we have to ensure that the space needs to be provided where the team can sit without distractions, come up with a lot of ideas and ideate. Now the next is the assemble a team. So of course design is not an individual person's job, it's not a one-man army. We need a whole team, and for that we need a team that is including people who are open-minded, who are creative and who are skilled in various fields across various disciplines, because nowadays you see there's a lot of focus on interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary works, because all the technology is now we are integrating it. So we see integration of many things in seemingly in products where we did not probably imagine them to be integrated with. So for the same reason, we have to have these cross-disciplinary expertise as well. So the team broadly should have representation from the user group, from the customer group, and also the visual designers. So when the designer is sitting with these groups, so it also helps during the brainstorming session to come up with more specific ideas, and those light bulb moments, we can expect more of them to come along. So there are various techniques available to the designer to come up with ideation. So we can see some of them here on the screen, and depending on the problem, the designer can choose which technique will work best. So some of them here we are aware of, like brainstorming, mind mapping, sketching. Analogies are putting two things together. So for example, if I say children are like sponges. So of course the physical structure of a child is not like a sponge, but their brain is considered to be a sponge because they soak whatever information they get. So now here we are equating a child with a sponge when it comes to them absorbing the information. So we have to be very careful what we are saying in front of a child. So similarly, in the design thinking stage of ideation as well, we can put two things which are very dissimilar and then put them together to come up with something interesting. Then brain dumping is where we are dumping all the ideas very quickly, and we are not thinking of the structure or the order. We will do that later, we will streamline them later, but we are just dumping on the paper what all ideas we are coming up with. Worst possible idea is an interesting technique wherein we start by looking at the ideas that are really poor, really negative, really worst possible ideas. So what this does is that it relieves the tension of the designer, because otherwise the designer or the team would be under tremendous pressure to perform well. So when you're thinking of the worst possible idea, so it acts like safe space where then the pressure is released from the team and then they can explore the better ones. So crowd storm, similar to the body storm that we saw, here we are involving a larger number of people. This exercise can be done whether online also and offline as well. And Scamper is a technique where we are putting several of these features together. So some of these we have discussed earlier also. So the designer may make an informed decision and choose the technique best suited for the problem that they are working on. So now when we reach the idea selection stage, this is where we will be seeing that the idea is doing justice to the problem that is at hand. It is serving the end user or the client's needs, and then we will be accordingly selecting the particular idea. So there are several techniques that can be used to generate and select the idea. So we can see some of these here. So one is this SWOT analysis, and SWOT analysis I've already discussed: strength, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So next is the dot voting. So in this particular technique, all the possible solutions or the ideas that we have come up with, they are placed next to each other in front of the team who is going to be evaluating them, who will be selecting them. And then it is to be ensured that all of those ideas are represented well equally. So one should not be more highlighted than the other, and they are getting the equal space to be represented, and all the information pertaining to the particular idea is also mentioned there. And now the team who is going to be evaluating these ideas, so they will be given certain dots, so like stickers, and how many stickers are to be given can be assessed based on maybe the number of criteria that we are looking for. So if one says ease of cleaning, if we are looking at some utensil that we are coming up with, we're designing say a vegetable peeler for example, and we have now 7 of these ideas in front of the team, and we say the first criteria is how easily can we clean it. So now the information that is presented, based on that the team will put their dot on the idea which they feel will fulfill this criteria. Then another criteria, for example, storing it. So again the dot will be placed. Safety, so on and so forth. So based on these criteria the dots will be placed. Now it is up to the person who's in the team that they can put all the dots in one product, or they may scatter around the product, all the different products. But at the end of the exercise all the dots will be calculated, and we will see that which products, the ideas for the products, they got the highest number of dots, and so they probably hold most promise because majority of people voted them the highest. Then we have the weighted scoring matrix. So this is a matrix again based on the criteria. So there is some weightage that is given, and based on that weightage the criterias are evaluated and they are added up. Now concept selection matrix is quite similar to the weighted matrix, wherein all the concepts are put together, and there we are selecting the concept that best fits the requirement. So all of these methods are equally competent in determining the selection of the idea. So when we come to the stage of idea implementation, so now we have taken one idea, we have taken several ideas, gone through all of these steps, compared them, evaluated them, and now we are coming at the stage where we are going to be implementing them. So now few things that we have to take care of is that the human always remains in the center. So the human, the user has to be our focus at all times. Define the problem and objectives. So the problem and objectives have to be very, very clearly defined. Involving the right people is essential. So all team members should be competent enough. They should have the background so that they are able to evaluate and select the best idea so it can be taken forward. Although we are looking at creativity, but still there has to be certain borders. We have to define the borders, the scope and limitation has to be defined. And we also have to keep on challenging the assumptions that we have. So we have to keep on reminding that we have to keep our assumptions on the side and we don't have to let them interfere. Now, idea sourcing. So how to source these ideas? So there can be two ways in which we can source ideas. One is an internal sourcing and the other is the external sourcing. So internal sourcing can come from the R&D team, engineering team, also our user experience team and our UI team, also the customer service team, the finance, sales, public relations. All of these can be our internal sourcing agents. And for our external sourcing, we have customers, we have suppliers, we can hold workshops to see that what are the problems. Trade shows are another very good way to see the ideas, because a lot of companies, a lot of startups, they put up their products there, so we can see that what has somebody come up with. Conferences are another very good academic areas where people from all over the world, if it is an international conference, people meet and they exchange their ideas, and collaborations can also take place here, because like we are always looking for teams to have that kind of a background. And also similarly conventions as well, where people come and meet and discuss and talk. So here also this is a good external source. Now there are certain challenges as well when it comes to the idea generation. So one is the functional fixedness. Now this is a cognitive bias. We saw the cognitive biases in the previous lecture, that how we should make all the attempts to get rid of them and not let them overpower our thought process, because we are finding a solution for the larger masses. So now this cognitive bias influences how we are thinking, and it tells us that how people are using certain products in a very traditional manner. So this is what we are already aware of. This knowledge is something that we already have, which leads to this biasness. So of course, when there is this understanding of how a product is used or how somebody takes out a particular function, so of course it is a quick way of coming to a solution because we are aware of it. But at the same time, it prevents us from looking at the alternatives. So just for an example, if we are aware of that one can take out water from the well by putting in a bucket, we can take out water from a well. And if that is the only way of our awareness, then we will not be able to come up with a solution where we turn on the tap and the water comes out of it. So if that mental biasness is there, then we will just keep on going back to the same solution of digging wells and taking out water, and we will not think of having the water pipelines and then turning off the tap to get water. We will not reach that solution. Then next we have lack of exposure and familiarity. It is again quite similar, because when the exposure is limited, when our idea of the worldview is very much contained, so then of course we go back to what we are familiar with, and this also leads to idea generation, because then we are not able to think out of the box. Expert in field. Now this can work out in the way that if somebody is an expert in the field, so they will keep going back to their domain where they are an expert. So if somebody is working in the area of LEDs, for example, so for every problem they will come up with a solution where LED may be useful. So again, it will not allow us to look beyond LEDs and look for some other solution. So being an expert in the field also can be detrimental at times. So again, being an expert is a good thing, but of course we have to open our mind and be acceptable to more ideas. Then lack of understanding of users and ethnographic research. So this is one of the main problems when it comes to the idea generation or the lack of idea generation, wherein we are not connecting with our user base, where we are not even understanding what our users want. So sometimes when researchers are not spending enough time with the users in their natural habitat where they are actually living and they are used to their surroundings, they interact with animate, inanimate objects. So unless the designer and the team spends time with them, lives with them, so they will not be able to observe the challenges that they face. So a one time meeting, two time meeting is not enough, because also people behave in very expected manners at times. So if somebody is aware that I am being watched, so they will also behave in the most perfect manner, and then it will not give the right data to the team. So they will come back after 2 days with no problem at hand. So they will not be able to identify the problem. So once the person, the user gets comfortable in our company, so then they start to open up and then they start to behave in a more natural manner. So that is why the ethnographic research is really important when it comes to understanding the users, because without understanding users we don't have a problem. And then we have the personal perspective instead of user perspective. So again, this is also where the personal biases or personal preferences will come. So if I like the color red, for example, and I want to design the basket in color red, so I may be inclined to do that. But what if red color in certain cultures stands for danger and they are running away from this red basket? So of course the product fails. So in this case, I have to, as a designer, remember that I don't have to impose my personal perspective, but I have to see the user perspective. If I am designing a basket for, say, people who are collecting tea in tea plantation areas, then what kind of color do they prefer? Because I am not the one going there to pluck tea leaves. So the red basket for me is useless for those tea leaf pickers, right? So then we have to take care of all of these challenges that we may encounter in the idea generation stage. Now, coming to the necessities and importance, so the main aim is to uncover and explore new angles and avenues to think outside the box and break away from traditional solutions. So, again, this deals with certain solutions that may already be around us, but of course, the human race is always striving to come up with better solutions. So now we have taps. So if you go to any airport, any mall, so taps have always been there, and which started with taps that we rotate to open and then we press, and the water comes out only for a specific amount of time. So that also helps in the sustainability aspect, because once we open the tap we forget to close it, so the water is getting wasted. Now we have come up with taps where we press and the button slowly comes up and the water stops gushing out of the tap. And after COVID, we realized that how we are scared to touch surfaces that have been touched by people who have used the facilities before us. So we don't want to touch and get the germs on our hands. So now we came up with the taps which are sensor based. So you just need to move your hand in front of the tap and then it gets activated and the water starts coming out. So of course this idea, which is very innovative and really useful when we want to minimize the human contact, but at the same time a lot of people had difficulty in understanding and learning how this tap operates, because there were people doing all kind of like touching, trying to figure out how the tap works because the water is not coming out. So it also led to a certain level of frustration amongst people. But this is how we are breaking the box in terms of, for solving a problem we have to keep on exploring newer avenues. It may take people some time to maybe get adapted to it, but if it is for the greater good, which is in the case of COVID to avoid human contact, then of course that is a viable solution for that particular problem. So allows learning about the problems and issues in end user, coming up with several novel and unconventional ideas without fearing about the risk. So, idea generation also allows us to learn about the problems and issues that the end user is facing, and then it helps us to come up with several unconventional ideas. That is what we are looking for, ideas that are maybe not already there, or which may be very new for people to get accustomed to. Like I just mentioned the tap example of the sensor based. So of course they may, we one may fear that, how will somebody know, because of course there is no written communication as well. There is, it's just a tap is there, because the aesthetics also have to be maintained of the washroom in the mall. So now how does one person figure out? So of course, so that risk of people not being able to understand or rejecting the idea is of course there. But at the same time, we have to come up with these unconventional ideas which are for the greater good. And at the same time, the ideas allow us to uncover the areas which have not been explored, the unexplored areas. And also, like we have discussed, that the multidisciplinary teams are essential in this design process. So it also helps the development of volume of innovative solutions, which we get through these multidisciplinary teams who come with their own set of expertise and strengths. So these are some of the necessities and importance of the idea generation. So with this, we come to the end of today's lecture, and I will see you in the next class. Thank you.